Hello, this is S.K. Williams, and I want to wish everyone listening to this recording a Happy New Year for 2017. As I make this recording, it is actually the 11th day of January 2017. So, I'm about 2 weeks late with this particular video. Or am I? What if I were to tell you that, at the time I made this recording, the New Year hadn't happened yet? The New Year was actually on a Saturday. Specifically, the New Year is Saturday. The very Saturday that falls in the week that I made this recording. Most of you would say that if today is the 11th day of January 2017, then Saturday is the 14th of January 2017, exactly 2 weeks after the New Year began. So, no, it isn't the New Year. Ah, and you would be right. And you would also be wrong. You see, the truth is that the New Year began January 1st according to the Gregorian calendar. But January 1st, according to the Julian calendar, is actually on a Saturday, meaning that Saturday, the 14th day of January 2017, is actually Saturday, the 1st of January 2017. Now, most people don't actually use the Julian calendar, but it was the most widespread calendar in use throughout all of Europe and most of Africa from the time of Julius Caesar's introduction of it to around in the middle of the 1500s. And even then, it was not universally adopted. In fact, it was produced by authority of the Pope, specifically a pope named Gregory, hence why it's called the Gregorian calendar. And as a result, it was really only adopted in Catholic countries in Europe. Protestant countries, as well as Orthodox countries, did not actually adopt the Gregorian calendar right away. In fact, they adopted it gradually over time for various reasons, such as commerce or regularity with trade partners or other necessities. Some, of course, adopted it because they actually saw it as an improvement on the Julian calendar. England, as an example, only adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1752. So, as a result, they were actually on the Julian calendar and skipped 11 days. If you're reading English history, there's an 11-day period that is literally skipped, and a lot of the dates are not adjusted for Gregorian dates prior to that. The Julian calendar, therefore, was not completely abandoned when the Gregorian calendar was introduced. It rather hung around. In fact, the last nation to abandon the Julian calendar as its civic calendar was Greece in 1923. So, even into the 20th century, while it had become vanishingly rare, nations were still using the Julian calendar as their civic calendar. And today, the Julian calendar is still used by some peoples as well. For example, somewhat well known as well, if you know about this issue, the Eastern Orthodox Church continues to use the Julian calendar for its liturgical calendar in finding out when Christmas and Easter are going to happen. Now, there are some differences. Some Orthodox have just adopted the Gregorian calendar outright. Others only use the Gregorian calendar for Easter, but use regular calendar dates that we are using in the Gregorian date. But others, like the Russian Orthodox Church, use the Julian calendar specifically for its liturgical observances, which means that both Christmas and Easter in Russia fall upon the Julian dates. This is why Russians often celebrate Christmas on January 7th or 8th, rather than celebrating it as would most of the rest of the world on December 25th, because to them it is December 25th. Now, the nation of Russia has adopted the civic calendar, which means that most people are thinking of it as January 7th or 8th, depending upon which one it happens to fall on that year. But liturgically, it is, in fact, December 25th still. And, believe it or not, the Julian calendar is not relegated solely to liturgical use. It is actually still used as day-to-day civic calendar for some peoples. one of those peoples being the peoples of Mount Athos in Greece. It is an autonomous, self-governing province of Greece. And, of course, the only thing on it is an Orthodox monastery, and they continue to use the Julian calendar. Of course, you may say that that's an exception that proves the rule. It may be using it for its day-to-day operations and not just liturgy, but it is still doing so based upon orthodoxy, and the only people that live there are monks in the Orthodox Church. True, but the Berber people of northern Africa also continue to use the Julian calendar. Granted, it's a slightly modified version of it, called the Berber calendar, but it is still the Julian calendar in essence. And a few other people still use the Julian calendar as well. Notably, the Ethiopian calendar is actually a derivation of the Julian calendar. And considering what I was planning on doing for New Year, I think it may be apropos to use the Julian calendar anyway. You see, I'm planning on introducing a new series. This series is going to be produced in coincidence with the college series that I am producing, as well as the new commentary series that I'm making. It is a Bible series, in which I take public domain Bibles, and using text-to-speech software, I create videos in which they are read to you. The first being the first ever English translation of the Bible ever produced, the Wycliffe Bible. So, the very first video that I intended to upload on the new year was going to be the Wycliffe Bible. Genesis chapter 1 of the Wycliffe Bible specifically. And now I can do that if I follow the Julian calendar. And the reason it's apropos is because this also happens to be the calendar that John Wycliffe would have himself used. After all, he lived in the 1300s. He died in the 1380s. This means that, well, he was using the Julian calendar. So, it seems rather appropriate that on the first day of January 2017 of the Julian calendar, I will be placing a Bible written under the Julian calendar, the Wycliffe. And I've decided that, for the duration of this year, and perhaps a few others, for personal use, I shall be using the Julian calendar. I'm not doing this because I think it's superior or to make a statement. I'm only doing it because I think it will be fun to do, especially whilst working with, older Bibles. With all that said, there really isn't much more to say except I have hope for the new year and hope you all enjoy it. Until next time, thank you, God bless, and signing off.